welcome to the Sugar and Spikes podcast, a podcast for entrepreneurs, side hustlers, and anyone ready to uplevel their career in their own damn way. I'm Des. I'm a life coach for women who get that having it all sometimes means having to balance the good and the bad, the sugar and the spikes, and all the in-between.
And I'm Tammy. I'm a therapist, and I'm all about helping as many people as possible to build awareness and make meaningful changes in their lives. I'm also dedicated to diversity and inclusion and increasing access to mental health care.
Between the two of us, we have 4 master's degrees and thousands of hours helping people develop balance, confidence, and clarity on their terms. So let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome to a special, unique, one-of-a-kind episode of Sugar and Spikes. I'm Des.
I'm Tammy.
And this week is, I don't know. It's all of the things that I said because, for one, this week is Sugar and Spikes, the podcast anniversary.
Yay!
So, happy birthday to us. Yay. We've made it through a year, which is kind of amazing.
Yeah.
And one thing that is a little more amazing is within that year, we've never missed a week.
I know. When you told me that, I was like, oh, I'm shocked.
Mm-hmm. We may have pushed some things, or things may have come out instead of Tuesday, come out on a Wednesday or Thursday. But in general, we've never gone more than 7 days. Well, that's not true. We've never missed a week. Because it was if something was released on Tuesday and then we got something out on the next Wednesday, then that's
fair.
Anyway,
still pretty impressive. Considering everything that's happened this year.
Yes, considering all the things, especially recently, last few months, considering all the things. But one thing that maybe our astute listeners are picking up on is that our sound quality is probably not the best right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is going to
circumstance too.
Yeah. So I've said this in a couple previous episodes and everything, but I've been traveling a lot. Tammy's been recording from home because she said family stuff. Mm-hmm. We've just had things going on. But that definitely carries over into the episode that we're leading into with Danny, which it was me because Tammy had something to do. And I was on the road. I was in California. And for you guys that maybe don't know, Tammy and I have real headsets when we do this.
We do.
Well, when we do this for realsies.
We look like sports announcers.
Yeah, no, it's really good. We generally have headsets and at least 2 mimosas, and it works perfect.
And then it's magical.
Yeah, and then it's fabulous. Right now for this intro, for the episode coming up, it's been me on my computer, and it's been guests on their computers, and it's been pretty bare bones, which is cool, but just wanted to give a nod to that. And I think it's kind of fitting because when Sugar and Spike started, it was me talking to my computer and rambling. And then I quickly realized that would get really boring really fast, so I wrote Tammy into it.
Yeah.
And the rest, as they say, is history. So, Tammy, do you have any anniversary insights, thoughts, asterisks for this episode or other episodes?
Well, I think I've really enjoyed how, we've grown and evolved, because we've talked about how, in the beginning, it was, a learning curve and a learning process, but I feel like we've kind of hit our stride. It's been good.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think, what I like about the podcast is we are honest about the fact that we do have other stuff going on, and it kind of mirrors that, right? Because everybody always has other stuff going on, so you can't kind of pretend, right? So we don't pretend. We're pretty honest about it, but then we make it work to the best of our ability.
Yeah.
Right? So, if you think about it in a psychological way, we model what we talk about.
Exactly.
Which I think is really important.
Yeah. And I was thinking about this on the drive yesterday because I did a road trip. I'm on a road trip right now. There's this moment that I had where I was like, holy shit, it's been a year and we haven't missed a week essentially, and just how that kind of mimics like health and fitness, and like any habit you want to create, it really gets to the core of like messy's better than done, in the not getting caught up in the, well, last time it was so amazing, so it has to be better than, in order to keep going and everything, but really like getting to the core of what is the goal. The goal
Right.
is to like, put some good content out to get people thinking, and that's the goal. The goal is maybe to entertain, maybe to educate. It's for us to get a little like friend therapy,
Right.
and that's
It's
that.
really
And
for us, right?
if anything is done beyond that, then amazing. But I mean, if like after the Kara episode or something, or after the Lauren and Liz episode, if we were like, well, we can't release anything besides really awesome guests, or, you know, started to put restrictions around, well, everything has to be perfectly edited and all these things, then we would not be where we are like right now.
Right. And it also speaks to like, we always talk about authenticity and how important it is to be authentic, right? And so authentic is messy. Authentic isn't like perfect Instagram and like perfect social media and all of that. And so I think it's important to live that even when we're doing the best we can.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in doing that, I think it also speaks to like when you show up consistently and when you just do the things, like how much people actually see and how much more they read into that. Like very few people actually, and I think this is like for the perfectionists out there and everything, very few people are actually picking your shit apart. Like sometimes they are, and that's their own thing. But really, if someone like looks at what you're doing and sees like consistency, especially over the course of like a year, 6 months, something like that, if they see consistency around it, that's what they're looking for. Oh, this person's trustworthy, this person is dedicated, this person like makes shit happen even when things go wrong. Because if you look at something that lasts 6 months, yes, life has happened within 6 months, you know?
Yeah.
And if you see anything with like stability over that, then that says so much more than it having to be shiny and perfect. I think just like consistency and getting messy and making things happen and learning from it. Like, I think even after this episode, like we can easily chat about, well, what was good, what wasn't great, all of that stuff. Like, I mean, right now, like Tammy and I are talking on Zoom on video, and that's better than if we didn't have the FaceTime camera on, you know, like, I don't know, just things like that. This really was supposed to just be an intro for the Danny episode. So,
intro.
This is normally if I had, if like my editor slash husband had the editing software right now, this is where the like mid would go with like the little bit of ads, and then we go into Danny, but we don't have that. So final words before we go to Danny's episode, the Danny piece.
You know, I really love the podcast and I hope people love and connect with it too. And, you know, we're going to be coming back with season 2 and we have some more ideas about how to make it better. And, you know, I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, I am too. I think this year was us getting our feet on the ground, and this coming year is going to be us completely just like jumping into all the fun.
Yep.
So, okay, without any further ado, the episode that we've been tangentially leading into is with Dani Driusso. She is a really kick-ass. She's a voice coach, but not in the way I think a lot of you guys may be thinking about. She's awesome. She and I have been in a mastermind or two together. We've been connected on the interwebs for a good minute. I love her style, I love her vibe. And really, we talked about, she did a full thing of 30 days of being fully self-expressed. So 30 days of like self-expression. And that was one thing we talked about. We're going to talk about like introversion and how being self-expressed looks like when you're an introvert, all the good things. So that is coming up, and I hope you guys enjoy it. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye, friends.
And then I don't know, like, if you have thoughts on self-expression for like the quiet folks who are like, oh, there are so many there are so many messages around like I should speak up and like use my voice and everything, but also I really don't have anything to say about this. Like I'm naturally just like, okay, whatever. You know, like folks that feel like they're weird for not being like, I have all the things.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes, I have so much to say on that. It's so funny because I normally attract like a lot of my clients are polar opposites of me. Very, very, which is like a beautiful thing. Like I always hire coaches that are so different from who I am, but I still connect with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I attract a lot of people who are very like quiet and very like closed off,
mm-hmm.
and feel like, yeah, that they don't have anything to say, or they feel like they're not meant to be bold or whatever. And it's really
mm-hmm.
like the understanding that everyone has their own personal power center, which I could talk about too.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, even if you're quiet, I say, because I really don't think that anyone is like destined to be loud or destined to be quiet. I think it's like how we play with our voices.
Mm-hmm.
That is like the fun part, but it's just like everyone has a power center. Just like if you listen to Danielle Laporte,
mm-hmm.
she's very like quiet but potent and powerful, and it's just so, yeah, I could talk all day long about that. So
I was like, we could just like keep talking, and then we could like record an intro at the end.
Yeah, we could totally, like, I'm down for whatever.
Because like, well, that whole point around like being quiet but having pointed things to say, like that's my style. That is how I've like, it's how I organically interact. And once I noticed like the way people responded, I was like, oh yeah, I'm banking on this. Because I'm totally like the quiet girl in the room, the quiet girl like at meetings and everything. But then when I have something to say, people shut up because they're like, oh, this has to be good. Like if Des has something to say, okay, hold on.
Yeah, and I talk a lot, so there's something, because I have a whole background in performance, and a lot of the stuff that I learn and I teach, I took my degree and I use it in a very random different way, but I love it so much. But people have energies, and the way that they speak and the way that they show up is they have different energies that align with, like, I'm not sure how spiritual your community is or whatever, but chakras or energy centers or resonators, vocal resonators, because there's resonators on your body, like physically built into your body that echo your sound. So it's like having like little speaker systems. So for example, if someone speaks from like a very like chesty voice, it's like that energy naturally radiates of sensuality. If someone speaks from like a really high nasal, like it's how we identify voices in like the stereotypical way. Or if someone's like in their head, you're like, oh, they're very intelligent, right? But that's just where you're placing your energy, right? So people speak in different ways where you have a natural power center that just like, I call it your power center. People call it like who you are, your authentic self or whatever. I like to call it the power center, because when your voice drops in with zero resistance, and just like your energy, who you are or whatever, like when you are with people who you're the most confident with, you drop into this place where you have zero resistance or limitations on who you are. And that's really like your power center. That's where you're most powerful. For me, I am really high energy and like, up in your face. But then I walk on stage and I call it like my sexy voice. Like if you watch Friends, like Phoebe's like sexy voice when she gets sick or whatever. Because the minute I walk on stage, I drop so deep into my heart that all of a sudden I'm like, hello, my audience. Like it's so funny. But it's just where you are when there's zero resistance. And I find like for me, it's just been on stage. But if like my mom is in the front row, oh dear God, no, like then it's like I have so much resistance that if it's a room full of hundreds and hundreds of strangers, like if I am going to go perform or speak in front of like 500 people who I don't know, I have zero resistance. It's no big deal, right? But then there's also this layer. So you have these power centers, these energies that people just naturally carry, and you can drop into them. And that's where you find your really, really powerful voice, whether it's quiet and potent. And I say quiet because they're all just energies. So it's so funny how we like use them as identifying factors of who we are. Like for me, for the longest time, I'm just loud. Like that was my thing. I'm just loud. But if I'm in a room with people and we're having a very like intimate conversation, I'm not going to yell in their face. Mm-hmm. So is loud really a defining factor of who I am? No, it's one flavor of the million flavors of Danielle. And that's really what the full expression 30 days was these different flavors. And then there's also what we talked about, like different energies of like your physical voice or how you show up. Some people float into a room. So you could say that they're more grounded in their lower chakras, or that they like are more grounded in their feet or whatever. Where I used to have a movement teacher who was a total yogi, and she looked like a fairy nymph, and she was just amazing. She had these like, she has this wild hair. I love her so much. Her name is Val. And she's just like a little pixie, right? But she walks into a room with this like floating on air goddess energy, and you just like, everyone's just like jaw drops. But if she talks to you, she can go from that to being like, oh my God, hi, happy, like, hey, like, what? And then she can also go to like very like intense and serious, and they're just different, like I said, flavors. And something that's really cool is in our voice and the way that we speak. And feel if you had to cut me off and ask me any question about any time, I could geek out on this all day long.
Go for it. This is good.
Perfect. Yeah. So in your actual voice, people speak in different rhythms, and they also walk in different rhythms. And like I say all the time, your voice isn't just a sound. People are all like, oh, it's just a sound. Like it's just either like your voice or you don't like your voice. You're either shy or you're loud. You're either outgoing or you're introverted. You're either like, it's so funny how like whoever decided in the beginning of this idea of putting people into boxes, they're like, well, pick a box, that's who you are forever, congratulations, like that's it. When it's really this, they're just different energies that we embody, and we embody them to a certain degree, which is just like our flavor. It's just like mint chocolate or double mint chocolate or double chocolate chip or whatever. If you're thinking about ice cream, I don't know why I'm thinking about food. It's like the morning right now, but apparently I'm hungry. I don't know. But we have these different rhythms too. So that floating on air, that like goddess like floating on air energy, that's like a float. And there's actually, I cannot think of his name for the life of me. I'll find it. But there's actually a teacher, and he was a performance teacher, and he memorized people's movement styles, and he broke them down into like 7 different categories or whatever. So there's like float, which is that energy of floating. And if I say, make your whole body float, your energy will change, your voice will change, every single thing about you will change, because you're focusing. So like, what is that energy and how can I embody it? Then there's staccato, which is like, but, and you probably know, like for me, this is the used car salesman, like style, where it's like, do you want to cut a deal? Like, right? And you probably are thinking of someone in your head, whether it's a fictional character or someone real, who embodies that staccato energy. Sometimes I do. It's like the Nicki Minaj energy of just like in your face, like really staccato-y. And then there's like ringing, where everyone knows that one person where it's like that, like wringing a cloth out is their permanent energy. So I think of like Eeyore. Like if you walked into like a room and you're like, hi, they're like, hi, what's up? Or like Ross from Friends. I love pop culture references. But like Ross from Friends, like just very like, hi guys, like that constant ringing. And then there's so many other ones. There's like, they're just so good. And I could go into each one in depth, but there's different energies that we embody at different times. And it's so cool, because what I thought the Fully Expressed challenge was going to be was a personal challenge to me to show up and walk my talk and hopefully sell out my one-on-one program. That was my goal when I was going in, right? Like strategy brain. What it ended up being was the entire rebrand of my entire business. Oh. It was so wild, and rebranding everything. Like, and I say rebranding, I feel I have like, of course, in the bubble of Danielle's world, I always have like my own little bubble of defining things for myself. But for me, branding is really like, what's the energy I'm showing up in? How am I speaking? What am I sharing? What am I walking the walk in my life, right? Because being someone like me, I'm like a voice and a leadership coach, and I work with like energy and presence work. So there's this layer of, yeah, I could teach you to walk on stage and publicly speak, and congratulations, like that was my whole degree. I've been doing this voice work for 8 years. It's been my whole life since I was 8 years old. Like I can teach you how to go walk on stage, but I can also share with you, like, that's one layer, that's whatever, that's amazing. And if you do that, that's awesome. And I suffered with stage fright, so I know how scary it is. Like, I used to go into acting classes and we'd have to go perform in front of people, but I had stage fright in front of my friends or in front of people who knew me. So I would go and do a scene with someone who I knew, and I would almost like block it out. So I would go sit down, and ever since I was really little, up until the time I was like 23, I was just like, I just didn't know why I couldn't remember what I did on stage. And we would sit down and we would get critiqued, right? Because that's like, I compare like an acting degree is like, take out your heart and put it on the ground and then tell everyone to tell you what you did wrong. Or like, go ahead and critique this. Like, here's my soul. Everyone tell me everything that you can about like what you liked or didn't like about it, right? So it's super funny. So I'm really like used to rejection and criticism, all that stuff, which really made me grow into this work so deeply. But, and we would sit down and we'd talk about what we did, and my instructor or whoever would be like, do you remember walking over to that table? And I'd be like, no. But I pretend to be like, yeah, totally. Writes down in journal. Apparently I walked next to a table and that was like something that I need to work on or something. But it's crazy how we only allow ourselves to express ourselves in certain degrees. And then we like cut ourselves off. So for me, I could express myself on stage, but I wouldn't let myself like subconsciously like be open to, like, it always happened when I would come back and I would sit and wait for notes or something like that. Up until that point, I would remember everything, but then I would sit there and I call it the neighbors upstairs. Like, you are so loud or whatever, in whatever form that is for you, whether it's like loud or poetic or emotional or whatever. There's like different radio stations, different dials. And then when you turn up the volume on, say, your emotions or something like that, and then the neighbors upstairs are like, keep it down. You're like, okay, oh shit, I'm going to turn down the volume. So for me, it was, I would go out on stage and I would do the things, and then I would come back and people would reflect back their opinion or whatever what I did, and I would instantly like forget everything as a protective measure of me not being hurt or me not being like feeling unsafe in any way. So for me, it was this energy of, you know what, like I can go up and I can be me, but I'm so scared to hear what everyone has to say about being me. And I feel like this, I'm just going to say, in like the leadership, coaching industry, everything, everyone speaks on like being unapologetically themselves, which is amazing. And I love that. Some forms of that have turned into put yourself on, like blast yourself out in the world. I call it like Dragon Ball Z-ing your energy out, right? Like, right?
Yeah.
The visual, right? And then going off and hiding because you're so scared not to be validated. Where I'm here to like blow that up and share with people that it's not about being like the tough guy at the beach that's like, hey, what's up? Like, want to fight me? And not being the person who hides in the back and needs to be a wallflower. Like, that's what we think is the 2 degrees of being yourself. And you cannot be anything in between. And if you are, you're lying to yourself. Like, it's just so funny. And for me, it's just when you're dropped into who you are and you get more obsessed with your own self-discovery than how you are perceived, you are actually so present in the moment. And that's how I've been able to heal my stage fright to some degree. Like, obviously certain moments come up and I'm like, I have no idea like what just happened. So, and that's just like a really good, well, I dealt with it for a very long time in my life. So it's something that I'm continuing to heal, but it's so interesting to just really be present. And instead of being like, I'm going to be myself and I don't care what anyone thinks, and also being, I'm going to care so much about what everyone thinks. It's being in this space where you deeply know yourself and you deeply know your shit and what you're good at. And you're so obsessed with your own self-discovery that when someone reflects something back to you, you actually have the emotional capacity to say, like, someone said something about me swearing on a Facebook Live. And a year ago, that would have crushed me. I would have probably ended the live. Like I was on a live stream and they said, you can catch more bees with honey, sweetie, or something like that. And I just like looked at it, and I had my Danielle, 14-year-old Danielle inside, had her whole people pleasing moment where she was like, oh my God, someone doesn't like you. Stop everything and change who you are. And then I just thought to myself, okay, so I know I swear. And that's actually, do I like that about myself? Yeah, it's like that staccato flavor of who I am. Like I don't use words. I would never swear at someone. It's swearing in this self-expression. I love words, and I love what words can mean, and I love putting different energies on words and seeing how it changes the word and all those things, and reclaiming these words. Like I reclaimed the word bitch because I was like, no, like, I refuse to be afraid of that word. And I reclaimed the word extra. I used to get called extra a lot. It like really hurt my feelings. Not anymore. I reclaim that. And now it's almost a part of who I am in a really like self-acceptance, loving way. And when you come from that area, not only do you stop caring about what everyone thinks, and not in this way of trying to block them out in order to feel good enough, because I feel like that's where the unapologetic energy can fall into, is this like push everyone out so you can't get hurt, or hurt them first so that you won't get hurt, or my big thing was make fun of yourself first so no one can make fun of you.
Well,
that used to be my thing.
It's kind of like true confidence versus ego, right? Like
yes,
putting yourself out there, and like being okay to stand with that. And if someone critiques you or gives you criticism, like, okay, what do I do with it? Versus like, that's confidence, like being able to like take that.
Yeah.
Whereas ego is just, oh, you're saying that to me because you're triggered and X, Y, and Z, and just like putting it back on that other person.
Yes.
I think, like, to your point earlier, I really think that in the industry and like the online space and just culture in general, there's so much of like, go be bold and loud, and if people don't like it, then screw them.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily that people don't like it. It's just, I mean, we're all growing and we're all getting better. And if feedback from the universe is feedback from somebody that's like, hey, this rubbed me the wrong way or something like that, maybe take a second to be open to it. And it's hard.
Yeah. And even moments of like really knowing yourself to the point where sometimes, because I've been in relationships before where it's like gaslighting was a deep thing, made me feel like I didn't know who I was because I had someone else reflecting something back to me that I would go into and be like, oh my God, well, maybe I am acting like that. Oh my God, well, maybe I am doing this. Oh no, like maybe I suck. Maybe this whole thing is a lie and I'm not good enough and all this stuff. But then it's knowing yourself deep enough to be like, okay, maybe I did, like self-awareness in a really loving way. One time because I'm Italian, I raised my voice a little bit, and someone was like, someone who I was had a relationship with were like, you don't have to yell. And I take a moment, I'm like, I'm not yelling. And then I was like, oh, because like you are reflecting what I think is quote unquote passion because I'm Italian and I'm like so forward speaking. You reflected that to me back as aggression. And so in the middle of the conversation, I was like, whoa, I didn't realize that for me, that was like passion. Let me just take a second to take a breath. I'm sorry, like I didn't mean to do that. That wasn't my intention at all. And really, my thing is communication. Everything can be solved by communication and potent and vulnerable and honest communication. Which is one of the things that like with the voice, it's so powerful to just be like, whoa, my bad. This is something that I didn't understand. And having the openness to just say, hey, this made me feel like this, but I'm not putting that on you. I just want to reflect back how this made me feel. Let's have an open conversation about it. Because even for me in relationships, I don't believe that there's any like right and wrong. Like obviously don't do things that are very hurtful to people, but there's a lot of small disagreements that turn into big ones in relationships because someone always has to be wrong. Well, what if no one was wrong and they were just living their own life, and you could reflect back and have an open conversation of your guys' differences and what you guys feel about certain things. And just like that moment where I had to turn inward and say, whoa, okay, so my sense of passion is someone else's aggression. That's really interesting. And just being not like, oh my God, I'm a terrible person, but interesting. Not how can I adjust every part of who I am to meet this person's needs, but what can I do in this moment to change my intention so that this person doesn't feel threatened. It's just, yeah, like that deep sense of confidence where you know yourself, you know your shit, and you are aware enough of who you are at a core that those things that are reflected back, do they actually align with who you are? Probably not. Like, I'm not an aggressive person. I get very passionate about things. I talk a lot with my hands, but I would never be aggressive towards someone. So the fact that someone felt that from me made me like have a reality check of how am I being perceived, not from this way of how can I change to make this person happy, but from this way of how can I just turn inward and recognize how I am making other people feel. Do I want it to be like that? And it's like the swearing thing. I was like, you know what, you might not want to follow me because I swear a lot, and it's not swearing at you, but it's something that is in my vocabulary. Maybe you won't like that, and that's totally fine. And I'm sending you love, and like, you go do you. Maybe you need to find a different mentor who like is more aligned in what you teach, right? Or in what you love. But in the other aspect, it's like, okay, am I actually being hurtful now towards someone? Right? And there's that delicate balance.
Yeah. You mentioned that you were like, you've been doing the voice work for 8 years, and like started like even when you're 8 and you've been doing it your whole life. Like, tell me kind of how you went from, like, I know a little bit of your backstory, but give everybody else like how you went from like undergrad or like even high school to now doing the coaching work that you're doing.
Oh, it's been the craziest, wildest ride, and I love it so much because it made no sense, and I'm so excited to share it. So yeah, I pretty much came out of the womb, I say like spirit fingers first. I'm destined to be an autist in some way or whatever. And even when I was little, I was the first one to be like, Mom, there's going to be a performance in the living room of Mambo number 5. You're going to want to be there. And I would just like drag her and make her sit. And what I thought was my stage was this tiny little ledge in my house. And my dad would come down the stairs and I'd be like laying across his baby grand piano because I was obsessed with like old Hollywood glamour, and like I'd watch old movies, and I'm like, this is what they do in the movies. And my dad's like, you're 8, please get down from there. Like, you're number 1, you're gonna break the piano. Number 2, like, you're not a jazz singer. Like, you need to calm down. So I instantly went into like theater. I did all these other things, which I think is a really important part of my story too, that I did all these things that I thought were really powerful and amazing to like be creative with. Like, I tried violin for a hot second. I did classical piano for a hot second. I did opera for a hot second. I did musical theater. I did like dance, all this stuff, ballet. But I would quit every single, and I did figure skating. Like, I did all the things. And I would quit every single time that I had to be a part of a competition. And I would just be like, no, like, I don't, because in my head, I was like, competition makes people mean, was what I saw in school and everything. So I just thought, you know what, I'm not going to compete. I'm going to stay in my own world. Like, instead of directly competing with someone, I can be the best that I could be here by myself, but don't make me go into competition with my best friend. Like, I refuse. So I quit a lot of things. And then I went into theater, and it was this one place when I went to drama camps where I felt like no matter what, I was going to be part of the crew. And if I was the Rock, if someone was taught, not the Rock, Dwayne the Rock Johnson, I wish I was the Rock, but in like Shakespeare, if I didn't get Viola and I had to be the Rock that held the vote up, I would be the best Rock I could be. Like, I will sit there so still and be the best. And I loved that, where everyone was a part of the crew no matter what. So I fell in love with theater. I would skip math class to go to the theater. I would text my friend who was in AP physics, which is like advanced physics. And I literally would text him and be like, hey, what are you doing right now? Do you want to come hang my lights? Like, I was just so ambitious in that one aspect because I found my place. Like, I found my place. I want to spend all the time there. I wrote my own play. When my instructor told me, because I was in advanced acting, I was in playwriting and stuff like that in high school, And my one instructor was like, we're going to write plays. They have to be 10 minutes. And I came to her with like a 20-minute play. And I was like, this is it. Like, I can't cut anything. This is a masterpiece. And she's like, okay. And she's like, if you make it work, I'll submit it into the drama festival. And I was like, fantastic. So I literally went to the costume department and was like, Kate, we're making costumes. Who wants to help me? Like, I was that like stereotypical, really peppy girl in high school who's like, we're going to do this. We're all going to do this together. It's going to be the best in the world. And I got my friends who were in the costuming world to do costumes for me. So we made our own costumes. I had my grandma help me. I was creating props during classes. I was like running before and after school. I would get my drama teacher to open up the theater so that we could practice and stuff. So I was directing, I was doing that, I was starring it, all this stuff. And so when I went to university, it was the same drive, like, okay, like no matter what, I'm going to be the best of the best, right? Mm-hmm. And so I went into theater, and I, just like everything, I didn't want to be in direct competition with anyone. So I would audition for everything. And if I didn't get the role, I was like, okay, cool. Then I guess that's not it. But they said no to this, but I'm going to go with my friends, and I'm going to go create something that's going to be in the festival downtown Calgary. So if I'm not allowed to be in the University of Calgary show, I'm going to go and be in the Common Ground Festival that's downtown in Calgary, and I'm going to go perform there. Like, I didn't really see the limitation, right? And then I go through university, and I graduate, and I go into what I thought was my dream role. So as like someone in an intern position, I was working for a theater company. I was doing a lot of like in-office stuff. Then I go in and I teach children's theater, which is really cool because I got to teach like voice and acting, all this stuff to children, which was amazing because I used to walk into like kindergarten classes, and I would know immediately what kids, just by getting them to introduce themselves, who was told to be quiet at home, who was told that they weren't allowed to be a certain way, who was told that they had to keep their hands down, who was told, because you could just like pick up on certain things. So it was my job to blow all those limitations up and then send them back home and be like, okay, like I'm going to unteach you everything that you've been taught. And like allow you to actually express who you are, because by that time they have personalities, but it's like almost they're trying to encompass their parents' personality instead of just being themselves. And it's like, when you're that age, the only job that you should have is to be a kid, right? Yeah. So I started doing that, and then I was also working teaching special effects makeup, and I was working teaching Shakespeare, like all over. And I was doing, I worked as a product specialist for like a major makeup brand too. So I was doing like retail. I was literally working. I would wake up, because I was also, this is when I got put into this space of like, I want to start my own business, I was a health coach at the time. So I would get up at like 4:00 in the morning, and I would work out, and I would post on my social media for that day. Then I would go to whatever school I was teaching at. I would teach from either 8 to 4 or sometimes 9 to 5. And then I would drive across the city and work 6 to 9 at the makeup place. And then I was working like evenings, weekends, whatever. If I had to drive after work to go do makeup for a show that was like in the next town over, I would drive there and have a lot of energy drinks, have a lot of espresso, and just was living on fumes. And I was so broke, like so broke. I remember there's this one point in time where I had like less than $25 in my account, and I had all my credit cards were maxed out. And I was just like, fuck this, like this sucks. Like I was literally counting down the kilometers to make sure that I could get to my work. Like I was just like counting down. I'm like, this is so, like, I don't have a social life. I'm not doing anything that I really want to do, because this is all like forms of what I want to do. Like, what, there's got to be more than this. And there was this one moment, everyone talks about like the one moment where they knew. This was one of my many moments. I was sitting in an audition hall, and I was watching all these like top actors in Calgary come in and audition for the show. And I'm so excited, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh my God, this is so-and-so. Like I'm like sweating, like so profusively, right? And I'm watching them one at a time come in, and it was the same thing. Like you could see who got booked as a show already, where this was just something fun for them, because they would be themselves. And then you could see the people who were like, oh my God, I need this to be able to eat this week. And once I like book this show, that's only going to take up 2 months of my year. I need to make sure I book another show so that I can have 3 months. So just so that I can make ends meet. And so I don't have to be a server. I don't have to be whatever. Right. And I was just like, fuck this. Like, this sucks. Like, I refuse to do this. And I got really serious about doing just coaching. And at the time it was like body love, self-image, all this stuff. And when I was finished the internship, I got really obsessed with leadership because there was someone who worked in the office who was just so mean to me. And I'm actually very thankful for that, because it's like my personality really triggered them. Like my desire and need to communicate things would throw them off, and they would get really upset. If I brought people coffee in the morning, including them, they would like not say thank you. They would make a point to really make me feel stupid because I was happy. It was like, because I came in with like, hi everyone, like I was treated as like the quote unquote ditz, which drove me nuts. And I would listen to leadership podcasts because I was like, this is just not okay. Like, that's all I would listen to all the time. Whatever I would do, like envelope. And she would put me on the silliest tasks. And then she would get mad at me because I didn't know how to do them before she taught me how to do them. So I would have to like figure it out myself. And it was just this sense of, I felt so disempowered. And I just noticed all these things where I was like, no, I'm never going to be ever going to lead people like this. Like, this is disempowering people. It's not lifting people up. And there was other people in the office who were amazing. And I just seeing the contrast was like, these are allowing this company to thrive. And this is really allowing it to get taken down because of that one person's like personal need to be like prove their dominance or something. So I just got really obsessed with leadership. And when I left that internship at my retail company, I would talk to the manager all the time and be like, how can we fix this? How can we do this more? How can we add like these, whatever we were doing to make people like perform at a higher level? How can we train them in a different way? And it's so funny because I was not in a position to be talking like that to my manager, but me and her were friends. So I was like, this is what we need to do. She was super obsessed with leadership too. And she's an amazing boss. I would tell her she was my best boss in the world. Like when I quit, she was like, no. And I was like, yeah, I'm sorry. I love you though. But it was just, I just got really obsessed with it. And it morphed from me being this health coach to me being really good at words and really good at emoting through my content, really good at connecting with people. And I just didn't know that other people didn't have those skills. Because I think everyone has those skills, but if you haven't been taught to use those skills, you're like, I don't know how to talk to people, right? Yeah. So it kind of morphed from there. And then I started doing like more content stuff, more marketing stuff. And then it turned into passion to paycheck when I quit my full-time job and I finally went full-time and stuff. And this past year has been a roller coaster of me truly falling into what I've always been meant to do. Always been meant to do. That made no sense, but you know what I mean? Yeah. Where I like fell back into this voice work when a coach of mine made me do a voice session with a bunch of girls at a retreat. And it was so funny. That was like in January, I think. And I'd be talking about this the whole time. Like, oh, I think I'm going to incorporate more. I think I'm going to incorporate more. I think I'm going to do more of this. And then she's like, okay, great. Y'all like go do it. And I was so scared because all these women who were in the same room as me were out earning me like 3 times. And I was like, oh my God, like why? Like they're gonna think I'm a joke because apparently monetary value was the only value I thought I had at the time, right? As sometimes I feel like you can go through when you're in a business, but where you're like, oh my God, everyone's comparing their bank accounts. Like if I don't measure up, then all of a sudden everything that I have to teach on isn't good enough, right? But I taught in that group, and I had so many people who were like, I've never seen that before. You need to teach this. This is amazing. I've never felt like this before. And just after leaving that retreat, I had people messaging me like a week later being like, I've never felt more me in my entire life. Or like I would see people's content go from like surface level to like this insane depth, and then this visibility would blow up. And I started doing it with my clients. And then I started running retreats myself, like the Unleash Your Voice retreat in April, where it was the same thing. Like I just saw people like blow up and I'm like, well, what if it has nothing to do really, like all these strategies are amazing, but those are just toys. What if it has everything to do with people actually owning who they are? And that's kind of how like I fell into this, and then I rebranded everything. And that's a very long-winded story, but hopefully that got across what you wanted to.
So if people are interested in learning more about Next Level Dani and all the things, where can folks find you on the interwebs?
Oh my gosh. At Daniele Driusso on Instagram. I love Instagram stories. My favorite thing in the world. And DanielleDriusso.com, or just Google my name into the Facebooks, and they will find me. I'm also doing a 5-day challenge that I'm super excited about next week. So if this comes out in time, if not, that's totally cool.
It's not going to.
Oh, that's totally fine. Okay. Anyways, I'll leave it in the group no matter what. But it's Define Your Destiny, because I'm going to be transitioning my old Facebook group to this new group. So this group will be live and people can still go through the like content and stuff like that. But it's all going to be about really removing people pleasing and obligation and the habits of, because that's really what keeps people stuck in their limitation, is this need to please or prove or be something to people in order to be liked or loved or whatever. So whether that's, I have to be quote unquote ladylike was one that I used to always get all the time.
Yeah.
And I had to be ladylike to be deemed worthy or whatever. And so if I was extra, that meant I was high maintenance. And if I was high maintenance, that meant that people wouldn't want my work or wouldn't want who I was or something like that. So it's all about like really shedding those layers and stuff. So that's there too. Oh, and the Unleash Your Voice podcast, of course.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Bye. Have an awesome day.
Thanks, you too. Bye.
Well, that wraps up another episode of the Sugar and Spikes podcast. If you guys like what we're doing, please subscribe, leave a rating, share it with your friends. It would mean the world to us. If you're not a huge fan of what we're doing, maybe share it with someone you think may like it. If you want to keep up to date on all of the Sugar and Spike shenanigans, get the behind-the-scenes tour of life and business as a millennial female entrepreneur, then follow me across all the social medias. I'm Des W, Ms. MBA, DEZWMS across all the platforms, your Facebooks, your Twitters, your Instagrams. I'm there, same name. And don't forget, if you're ready to rise up as a legendary leader, you know you are, then head on over to DesireeW.com and sign up for the free 5-day Legendary Leadership Challenge. Also, I want to thank Forget the Whale for use of their song Move Along as our theme music. And guys, remember to stay unavailable for fuckery.